Hello, Julian.
Hello, Mike. So what are we going to cover tonight?
We're going to cover philosophy, Jamaican cooking, and how to survive university. And we're going to go on this incredible journey.
Oh, I know. It's our new best mate, isn't it? It's Dready Vet.
It's Dready Vet.
Hi, I'm Mike Brampton.
And my name is Julian Ho.
Welcome to Veterinary Ramblings.
Yay!
Hello!
Hey!
How are you guys?
We're excellent, fella.
We're great.
Absolutely brilliant. Right. We've got a lot to cover tonight.
We have.
You've got a hell of a
Buckle
story,
down.
dude.
We'll go through. Which story do we start on?
I don't know.
Let's start on... Oh, no, I know what to start on. Let's start on Brno.
All the way back.
You have recently qualified in recent terms in relation to the age of Julian and myself as a vet in Brno University in Czech Republic. Okay, so what made you want to be a vet in the first place?
So it's always very cliche, and I think I'm no different to the majority of vets who, at a very young age, always had a kind of strong affinity to being around animals and being that young, you never really have a conception of what it means to be a vet. I think often we're pigeonholed into, you like animals, you should be a vet. This is a one-to-one fit. And so I was earmarked for being a vet at a very young age because I was the only one in the family that really, enjoyed being around animals. And that was particularly, we had cats growing up. And then it was a variety of rescue dogs that my dad found on various places around Birmingham. Not always to the most enjoyment to my mom at that particular time, bless her. And I was the person who would spend the most time with the animals in the house. And so very early, I was always that kid who was happy to get his hands dirty and go to other people's houses and I would, have birthday parties. I would be the one that sat by the cat and just sat in the corner minding my business. And so that's where the original affinity and drive came from. But again, when you're that young, you have no idea what it means to be a vet. You just like animals.
Yeah.
And so
I told everyone from the age of 5 I want to be a vet. And I hadn't even seen James Herriot then. I didn't know what vets did other than they helped animals.
It's really wild to think that at such a young age you can be so connected to something that you don't really have a conception of. But I mean, here we are, and so it developed with that. And so as I grew older, I continued to really love animals. I continued to want to spend time with them, and I remember we had a trip. We managed to find a holiday on Teletext. I remember it.
Oh, good old Teletext. And you miss the page, don't you? You have to wait for it to cycle through again.
It was before lastminute.com and that whole debacle of sitting on the computer and waiting. It was. I remember sat down in the living room and we were looking for a holiday and we had no idea where we were going. And Teletext, and I remember it came up and it was holiday for £429 to Kenya. And
wow.
What?
Imagine on Teletext. So you can imagine we were sat around. This is obviously something that we would do as a family, going on Teletext to try and find a holiday. And it was a really funny moment because it was such a nice opportunity for us to kind of guess where we're going. And our parents had done a very good job of making it into this whole idea of a whole drawer about our holidays. So where are we going to go? Oh, maybe we're going to go to Brazil, or maybe, and so it ended up being Kenya. And so we were ringing away trying to get this holiday, and we ended up getting it. And the reason why this was so important because it was my first time having a direct connection with exotic animals. We actually went over Christmas periods. It was great Christmas Day in Kenya.
Wow.
And, yeah,
amazing. Yeah,
incredible. And there's some pictures of me holding this giant monitor lizard. I was about 3 foot possibly, and also this python. And I really, that was a moment that I've really treasured. It's my first interaction with an exotic animal in any particular context. And on Christmas Day, it was something that I've really, really enjoyed it. And the funny thing is that me and my brother, who also went on a holiday, he is so naturally anti-animals. And so whilst I was holding this monitor lizard and stroking it, my brother was concerned he was going to get TB. So he was in the toilets washing his hands with, washing his whole body with, hand lotion to try and wash away the TB in this monitor lizard. So, I think very early on, my parents were clear that I was an animal person and they wanted to help cultivate this as best as they could. And so as I got older, I started to have a better idea of what it meant to be a vet and what role this could look like. I started to become interested in science, and then you do the GCSEs and you start to develop into a more rounded individual when it comes to what you wanted to be. And the beauty of it is that I never wanted to be anything else at any particular point. It was always very much veterinary medicine. You ask anyone who knew me in primary school or in early secondary school, it was always Fabian wanted to be a vet.
Wow.
And it was very single-minded in that sense. Sixth form came around and we had got, that was an experience, because it was just, at the time I found it really difficult to become motivated, because the science is here, but the actual application to animals felt very distant. And that particular junction was quite difficult for me, to be honest with you.
How can learning Stokes' law and the laws of viscosity apply to helping a dog, cat, or bearded lizard get better?
Yeah, exactly. Every single thing about my process, I'm a very practical person. It's very much how I learn. It's how I develop my connection to things. I like to see things visually and see the application. And the abstract nature of A-level chemistry or A-level physics, and to a lesser extent A-level biology, was just a little bit distant for me. Luckily enough, I managed to get the grades I wanted to get, but then came the application process of getting into vet uni. Straight off the bat, I had a not so positive response. I had one interview and 3 rejections, and at the time, that was that's the only thing you ever wanted to be. That initial response can be hugely demoralizing, and I had countless weeks of work experience, and it was such a competitive. It's always so competitive. You need to have. I've got 50 weeks of experience, and I have 400 weeks of experience, and I live on a farm. And
yes, I built a farm with a riding stable.
Literally, I am the farm. No, but
I was going to say that. I am the farm, and if you look closer, you can see them all crawling around inside my beard here. Yeah.
And so genuinely, I'd done so much because I was so committed from such a young age. But to have that initial response of, you're just not quite what we're looking for, that was quite demoralizing. And then I had the opportunity to effectively, it was the point when I applied when it was £3,000 to £9,000. And so people who traditionally would be going on a gap year or deferring decided they all wanted to go in that particular year. And so I effectively had an offer from a university I will not name, but I was in, quote, 0.4% of the borderline that they didn't want to or couldn't accommodate for. Right. By numbers. And so they came up with this particular scheme that they were applying this particular year, where they said, if you do a kind of zoology or another course, an animal behavior course, and get a 2-1, then we'll have you for preferred candidacy, in 3 years' time. And again, as you can imagine, I was staring at this letter thinking, I've spent my entire formative life dedicating to this particular process. And you're kind of half saying yes and also half saying, we'll see you in 3 years.
They're dangling this little stick, aren't they?
I wonder, I've got a feeling here that you have had the openness and honesty to actually say that, because I've got a feeling we've met a few people over the years, haven't we, Julian, where they have the veterinary degree has been a second or even tertiary degree, because for some reason they went this route, this animal science or this zoology degree thing. Yes. And I wonder actually whether you've actually hit on something there, and that the real question is so your first degree was in zoology. Why was that, and why wasn't it veterinary medicine? And I bet you've just answered that question, because a university has gone, well, we don't want you to do veterinary science, but if you go off and prove that you can do zoology, then we might give you a year's grace and you can do your veterinary degree in 4 years instead of 5.
Yeah.
That is literally what I was being told. And I think the difficulty is that you always know that veterinary medicine is extremely competitive, and everyone has really high aspirations and wants to do something that they're very much connected to. And, you know, to do and be part of veterinary medicine at that particular point, you have to be particularly passionate already.
Yep.
And so the way that I approached it and reviewed it, initially through the lens of frustration, but then also through the lens of what opportunities are available to me. And I just kind of tried to be lateral about it. And I'm very fortunate in that my mom in particular is very much a lateral thinker. And she said to me very directly, "You've never done anything in a straight line. You know, getting work experience, being from the inner city Birmingham and not knowing any vets to be able to access certain, you know, opportunities with regards to, I know someone who does this, or I know someone in a vet clinic, or she was very clear and said, there are lots of different opportunities, and just because this one isn't exactly how you anticipated it doesn't mean there aren't more out there." And so I basically had a gap year. I had all these lofty dreams of going to the Galapagos and doing all sorts of Darwinian style tests, etc. I ended up working in Nando's, and so the complete antithesis of what I expected, but it was an opportunity for me to make a decent amount of money for a laptop and so on.
I have a question. A question then that is directly related to that. What is chicken wing roulette?
It is what I'll say as an insider. It's a footballer's favourite. Effectively, every single one of the flavours is based on 2 of the chicken wings, and so you've got extra hot and you know mango and lime. So eat your 2 wings, but you don't know which ones. And so the idea is that whoever you just be careful what you choose, basically.
Excellent. Thank you very much. It came up. I was listening to the wireless yesterday as I was driving home, and they were talking about Nando's chicken wing roulette. I thought, how am I going to find out about that? I'm not going to Google it because that's just very good.
Well, hang on a minute, guys. I want to know whether you still get on with your brother.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We get on like a house on fire. Absolutely. We brothers have a certain language, and all my family members just think, what language are you speaking? I know it's English, but I don't know what you're actually saying. So we are very close, but in a kind of brotherly way. So it doesn't matter if I've seen him every day for 7 days or I see him once in every 2 months. We still just have an affinity that we understand each other very well. So absolutely. It's really, and I'm quite lucky in that sense, but I know how hard it can be sometimes for brothers to get along into later in life.
Yeah, for sure.
But he hasn't decided to love animals and follow your footsteps.
Well, he's allergic to cats. I can't mention anything related to blood or anything that I've done. My mom is 50% better, but even then there's a limit. And in the line of work that we do, things can get a little bit gruesome for your average layperson, shall we say. So yes, I took a gap year, worked in Nando's, and effectively as time went on, the opportunity for Burno and came up, and it came up by accident, really. I was in this kind of swirl of what's the next step? Do I reapply and put things on a back burner? I knew that veterinary medicine is still the place I wanted to be. Do I go via the longer route and do bioveterinary science or zoology or animal behavior, whatever it is? A friend of mine at my 6th form had mentioned that someone had studied abroad and they were doing dentistry. And ironically, it was in Burno. And I was, oh, that's interesting. You know, all the same qualifications, etc., etc. And it turns out that it was. And so I thought, you know, maybe there's an idea here with regards to veterinary medicine. And so I looked into it, you know, very transiently and didn't pay much attention initially. And then I brought it up over dinner with my mom. And she said, no, you should actually, you know, review this a bit more diligently. And so I did. And we kind of did it together. And as time went on, ironically, it sounded much more in line with the types of things I wanted from a uni experience. And at the same time, on the BBC, there was a little kind of mini documentary about the influx of, you know, British students studying abroad for a variety of different reasons. And so things just started to click. And so once I realized that the qualifications were the same, I actually started to look into different universities in Europe. And Brno actually was very well known for being a very solid small animal clinic, but also having a fantastic exotics clinic attached to it as well. And so eventually the opportunity came up to apply. And I just thought, you know what, there's no harm in applying and see where you go from in that particular process. And, you know, one thing led to another, and then, you know, very, very quickly, within a very short period, you know, 3 months, to be honest with you, I went from applying and passing the entrance test. And I was very lucky to pass, and the opportunity was sitting there. And so I came to this point, well, do I do zoology for 3 years and then go at this with a very high chance of getting in later in life? Or do I go the unbeaten route and live in, you know, the Central Europe, you know, be an hour and a half away from Vienna, 2 hours away from Prague, and, you know, live in a city, and the weather is generally a lot better, and the living costs are cheaper. The actual course, ironically, was more expensive, but when you add in living costs, it was pretty much about the same.
Yeah, it all sounds horrible, doesn't it? God.
It does.
Yeah. all the noise coming from Vienna, and God, yeah.
Listen, I've got the utmost respect, because I went from Birmingham to Sheffield, and I was homesick for the first 6 months.
Yeah.
I wasn't, you know, if I put my hand on my heart, I was not ready. And you went from Birmingham to the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
That's a gutsy thing.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing. A lot of them don't even speak English, do they?
No. And that's the thing. It's the university was going to be taught in English. They have two separate courses, but it was going to be a culture change. You know, it's always funny. I always lead with this. It's probably not the best thing to do, because the Czechs that I do know, still some of my best friends, always find it really frustrating. But Czech Republic 5 years ago was the second most xenophobic place in the world after Saudi Arabia.
Oh, really?
Really? And it's funny because, you know, I've spoken about this before, you know, to a variety of different friends about my experience there. And the one thing about the Czech Republic and Czechs as a community and as a culture is they're very clear about and blunt about whether they like you or not.
Yeah.
And ironically, you know, going out there, although it was a little bit of an odd experience, it was very clear. The rules of engagement were very clear.
Right.
And as long as you operated within those rules of where you felt comfortable, it was really quite straightforward. It was a fantastic experience. And I think the space that I was allowed to have and the opportunity to grow as an individual felt a lot more in line, a lot more organic than I probably may have felt in the UK, because it was like a sink or swim situation. It was for so many of us. And I think in hindsight, it actually was the making of me, because I very much, I moved to a different country. I wasn't at university. I was doing the bills, and I was there for most of the year, and, you know, I had to organize flights and have to organize everything. I was in control of. And so in that sense, it was just a really quite defining period for me. And, you know, it was invaluable. I think the way that it's structured as well, it's very much, you do your science for the first 3 years, and then you do your hands-on, you know, slightly old school. Because
that's how I did it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I think now in the UK we have a lot more of a fluid. You know, it's like we're doing different areas. Is it not? Is it not that?
You're right in some respects. I think the university that changed that really, and I've got a lot of pride because I used to lecture there, is Nottingham.
Yeah,
I was there the other day.
They were the people that, is it 8-9 years ago now? I think
it must be.
Yeah.
It was Malcolm Cobb, really, wasn't it?
It was Malcolm and Gary England. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they started animal handling week 1, year 1. And because most of the other colleges, I can't speak very much for the RVC because I haven't lectured there as such, but most of the others, as you say, are you sort of 3 years of science.
Yeah.
You're doing 6 months pathology and all of this stuff. If we even get anywhere near an animal.
Yes. Whoa. What are you doing? You can't touch that cat yet. I mean, for heaven's sake, you haven't done Krebs cycle. Oh, jeez.
But with that model, Nottingham have changed the way that things are being done. So one of the big things that Nottingham did right from the get-go was a practical skills laboratory, simulated animals, simulated situations, and they can simulate just about anything that's going to happen in a real situation. And one of the older, more established universities is just setting up their practical skills lab. So that's 2021 for you. So it's taken a long time. It's not changed that much.
It's not. Really? And actually, there is a bit of an argument, being all fuddy-duddy. There is a bit of an argument for doing the science part. I don't think it's enough of an argument. But one of the principals I spoke to years back said actually he would push to have that separation still, so that if people decide to leave at the end of 3 years, they've essentially got a science degree.
Yeah.
It's true.
So, I don't think it's enough of an argument to carry on separating it as strictly as they did, but it was an argument.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Thank you definitely for sharing but it's interesting because I had a friend who was at University of Nottingham, and so that comparison of what I thought was quite archaic in certain ways. You have to learn this and learn this, and if you don't turn up and know this, then you are going to fail and you'll never be a vet. And then the kind of more fluid and holistic, approach to veterinary medicine, and hearing that, it was quite a contrast in that sense. You're absolutely right. By all means, that separation is quite still there. So but anyway, so that was my experience in the Czech Republic. And I want to go back to that. Okay.
I want to go back to that because you said there that it made you.
Yes.
Could have broken you, it could have made you. So you're known across social media as Dready Vet. Now you're you're hiding your dreads tonight a little bit for the viewers. They're there.
Well, actually, I should say we talk of viewers. Most of our audience listeners, and they wouldn't know that actually, obviously, both Mike and I have very full and luxurious heads of hair, but Fabian beats the crap out of us on that by having the most incredible dreadlocks. Like, I can't see how far down your hair goes. Is it down to your waist or?
There you go.
Oh man, that's your nipples.
Down to the nipple region, absolutely. So I can shoot my GQ shoot in the future. It's fine.
Okay, so we've mentioned elephants. Well, we haven't mentioned elephants. We mentioned Kenya, but of course, elephants live in Kenya. So let's discuss the dreadlocks in the room, shall we? Just for a moment. Right. So you are in Central Europe, on your own admission, and I've lectured in Prague. And it's quite a place, and really, as you quite rightly say, it can be quite xenophobic. So when did the dreadlocks happen?
When I was 16.
Wow.
Okay.
So I've had long hair since I was 11, basically.
Right.
And I had a hairstyle commonly known as cornrows, cane rows until I was 16. And the reason why that was really decided is because my mom had decided that you can't have something which is actually as high maintenance as this until you're a little bit more grown.
In other words, I'm not going to wash your hair for you, darling.
Basically,
anymore.
I'm not maintaining this without you committing to that. Thank you very much. And
I'm loving your mum.
She's great. She features a lot in my stories, if you hadn't already noticed.
I think
we need her on the show.
We need her on the show. She sounds ace.
She's brilliant. Nothing but the highest regard for her, bless her.
I want to hear about her cooking later. We'll get on to her cooking in a minute. But back onto the hair, Fabian.
So from 16, I've had this hair, and it's been very much a part of my identity. But at the same time, I feel like, the idea of Dready Vet, which is a whole other thing, which I also created in the Czech Republic, was it's to kind of highlight that I can be connected to the cultural aspects of where I'm from, but actually it doesn't have to be the only thing that I can talk about and celebrate and highlight. The dreadlocks things is something that people see directly, instantly, and for me, being from Jamaican, Cuban backgrounds, it's such an important part to have it connected to my culture. But I like it as a way for people to see who I am. But when they actually see the type of things I'm involved in, it has absolutely nothing to do with that capacity. And I think one of the most important stories that I have with regards to the quote unquote journey of Dready Vet is that it happened and it started after my first year of uni. And I'd spent, as you can imagine, all this time trying to get to be a vet. I finally got into vet uni and I worked my ass off for a year. And at the end of it, I realized...
For a year?
For the first year. I worked
the first of six. Yeah.
The first of six, right? And I was lazy after that. But I worked so incredibly hard because I felt that was what was important. And by the end of the year, I was exhausted. I was a shell of my own self. And I'd just done this exam in histology. It's my last exam of the year. And I'd come out with a great grade. But I was exhausted. And I went home. I sat in basically my boxes for 3 days. I ate nothing but Subway. And I just stared into the abyss for 3 days. And I thought to myself, there's got to be more to this process than just being good at passing things. And I said very clearly to myself, no one's going to ask me what I got in my histology exam when I become a vet. Absolutely no one. And so a week later, I just thought to myself, I need to have something which is bigger than grades. And so I thought maybe, just having a blog for myself, because blogs were quite popular at the time. And so I at the time I knew Dready Tennis, who's a very famous tennis player. And I just thought he's someone who has this image, and he's got a Jamaican background, he's German, but he's a great tennis player and his dreadlocks aren't the thing that define him. And I like that framework. And so I just thought, well, Dready Vet, it works. It's kind of similar situation. And it just grew from there. I started writing opinion pieces, did a little video here. I, commented on certain things. I talked about cases, anything at the time that felt like I wanted to do a little bit more with, but I didn't really have an identity within that about what I was going to develop that into. It was just whatever felt right. And whatever felt right was a really nice outlet for me to remind myself about why I was doing veterinary medicine in the first place. And that was to be part of a community and to comment on things and bring in other parts of who I was outside of my ability, again, to just pass exams. And so it felt very natural and it felt very positive. And it was something that just continued to grow. And I was very inconsistent. And that's the thing. People ask me, do I need to write an article every week? It's like, no, I didn't write articles for 5 months at a time, but if I was connected to it and I was compelled to write something or, comment on something, I would. And so whilst I was doing my degree, I was doing the Dready Vet thing. And I think in 4th or 5th year, I went to India to do with WVS, actually wearing their hoodie right now.
It's the World Veterinary Service, WVS.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, excellent.
Brilliant.
And so I went to an animal birth control clinic, basically a surgical course for 2 weeks, because there was not much out there which was independent of their website about the course. So I thought I would independently create some content. And I informed them about it, and they were really on board. And they said, yeah, it's fine, da, 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 da. I think that particular point, I realized that talking in front of a camera and presenting things really started to take another gear, because I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed showing what it was like and I still get people today asking me, I seen you did this course, and it was like 5 years ago, and so I saw your videos, it was really helpful. Can you tell me about the course? And I said, well, it was 5-6 years ago now, and not really up to date with it, but it was a really nice opportunity for me to do something a little bit different, create some media, some content. And so the Dready Vet thing started to continue to grow. And then by my final year, I was doing clinical pathology rotation, and I got asked by Vets Now to go and do some media work for their congress. So they said, we'll give you a free ticket and we'll give you all, and we if you create some media for us, we'll basically we'll give you a nice meal, and we'll give you a place to stay, and so at that point, that was like the first real reminder that actually there was some nice kickbacks as a result of that.
And there was something about free drinks on your blog, I seem to remember that. Yeah.
Yes, there were a lot of free drinks, and I was very keen to partake in the relevant festivities, because obviously we go to those places to
rude not to.
Absolutely. The red wine was very free, put it that way. But that's when I started to think of it differently, because it's always just been a little bit of a space, an outlet for me, and then it started to become a little bit more real.
So did that then lead on to CBBC?
To an extent, yes. I think by the time that had happened, I'd already ruffled enough feathers, because I wrote some opinion pieces that some people didn't feel comfortable with, some about religious slaughter. I wasn't ever scared to dip my proverbial fingers into the honeypot of the veterinary community and some of the more colourful topics that were going around. So finished uni, and pretty much straight out, there were people asking me, by people I mean producers, asking about, who I was. They wanted to get a little bit of an idea about where I was as a vet. And at the time I could only say, well, I have not graduated, or I'm, a month out, and so a lot of the interest simmered down for good reason. The last thing you want to do in your first month is be asked to be on any type of TV show or anything. The last you want to be able to be a vet, because you're not really a vet in that sense. But with regards to the pets factor, within a year, I basically got an email from the producers, and they just said, we're producing a show, we're looking for a new vet, and you've been highlighted as someone who has that personality that might be useful for this particular show. And we understand that you're interested in exotics, and that may be a line that we're looking for. And so we just had very small conversations for a period of about 4 or 5 months, availability. And I spoke to the clinic. Luckily, I'm in an independent clinic, so they're a lot more flexible, generally speaking, than a couple of the clinics possibly. We can say it's not a naughty word. We can say, Robert, we can easily, there's no problem saying practice. Yeah, okay.
You've got a budgerigar in the back there, have you? Corporate.
And it just grew from there. So 5 months down the line, they said, well, let's get a cameraman down to you, record, a couple of hours with you, and we'll see how we get on. And the highlight was we had these 3 young kids with their 3 rabbits come in, and extremely brummy. Are we going to be on TV? Oh, so this one's Dave and this one's Jessica. So it was like the whole brumminess came out, and they love that regional aspect. They love the regional aspects on TV. We're especially in the BBC. It's like,
it's so much a part of the people, isn't it? Though
it is.
It's
so much about sharing with the rest of the country.
Bless the Brummies. Bless the Brummies.
Hang on a minute. Whoa.
As well?
Hang on. Right, now then.
Yes.
So what's your excuse then, Fabian?
Because
you're talking about cultural links and cultural roots and speaking in your best BBC accent. Because
received pronunciation.
Yes, like I know that I don't talk like that all the time.
No,
I've got where's the accent gone?
The thing is, Mike, you know what it is, mate. I was born and raised in Birmingham.
Yeah, right.
But I also had a mom who told me that there are certain ways that you can, speak. And also, one of the main things is that when I went abroad, no one understood me. Most of my colleagues were not from the UK. They were Danish, and they were Swedish, they were Israeli, they were French, they were German. When I used to crack out when I get tired, I'm at the Blues, Birmingham City.
That's a minor football team in Birmingham.
Let's not get into it.
That's association football, of course. Yeah.
But when I'm in certain places or around or get drunk, any of those three, I become very brummy. But being 6 years around people that all English is their second or third language, and ironically, they all understand each other in their weird third, second language. And here I am as the English person who sounds like the odd one out. So I really had to neutralize it so much. And I come from a relatively RP family anyway, so it's kind of just stuck. But it is something. But we had those three kids come in, and the cameraman was so happy with the result. He actually said to me, I haven't sent this off, but I think you're going to get it, mate. And I said, at the time I was trying to be modest as possible, like, really? And he just said no. He said this was gold. He just said the only frustration is that I had the wrong lens, so we can't actually use this. So somewhere in the archives is this unseen footage of these three very brummy kids. And that was it. That was how that all started, and the rest is proverbially history.
And do you enjoy it? Clearly.
Loved
it.
Loved it. It was all the other practices are small animal clinics. And I was dealing with exotics and such a high amount. Now finding exotics in the clinics was like, oh my wow, we're getting a rabbit. Oh, we're getting a bird. And for me, it's like tortoise, rat, gerbil, guinea pig, macaw, dog, rat, bearded dragon. For me, it's another day. And so the first 2 weeks, I had to remind them that there's another 8 weeks of filming, because they don't have to film absolutely everything. And when you film absolutely everything, you have to fill the entrance to the room, and you have to record it from another angle, and then you have to go through it, and then you have to prepare the words in layman terms. And despite the fact that they have this idea that they're going to just melt into the background and they're not there, it doesn't translate like that. Actually, it's like, could you say that again? Please, could you? What would a kid say to this? So that whole moment was quite a lot the first 2 weeks, but I loved it. It was great. Absolutely great. Ironically, the end of the filming ended up being the start of the COVID. So we've just finished filming.
Shame. I was filmed once, a couple of times actually, consulting and things. And I do a lot of acting, and so I thought it'd be easy. No problem at all. I just my usual voice, my usual patter would be great. And the cameraman came in and said, "You're going to sit up here. That's fine, great." They said, "We wanted to call the client in, and we've already spoken to the client. She's prepared, and she's going to come in. You're going to chat. You just talk about the pet and do the consultation." I said, "Yeah, fine." They said, "Okay, rolling. Hello, Mrs. Smith. How are you today?" Cut. "Yes, sorry, mate. What happened?" I said, "What do you mean, what happened? It was fine." No, you were really awkward." "I don't think I was." And they had to do about 5 takes before I suddenly thought, what am I doing? And realised that actually that's what I was doing. I was I was sort of acting to the camera, and I thought, I guess I can pretend it's not there. And after about 10 minutes, you do forget it's there, don't you?
100%. Finding your thing, your essence is actually it takes time to grow. And initially I treated it like I treated my job, and actually I had to remember that I was presenting it to kids.
Yeah. and you got to move. You got to move around more. And we don't tend to move much. Do we? We talk. We're in a clear. Yes, I see. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I'm erudite. Yes.
Yeah.
It was a huge amount of that work, but it was a wonderful experience. And I think by the third week of them filming, I fell into a lot more, and I realized what I was having to do. But to be fair, the first day I had so many emergencies, and I was sole charge, and I think I had so many animals try to die on me that day, and then have this giant camera in my face. I just remember at one point saying, I don't know what I said. There was a dog, bless it, I had like a serious heart failure, like really like refractory heart failure, and I had to turn around to camera and say, I need to focus on this. Like, you need to not film me. What's refractory heart failure for a kid? I mean, like, come on, give me a break. We can't do this.
So have you got a right of please don't film this?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so early as well. I think again, like for them, it was like stimulation overload with my practice, because it was just so much happens, which I take for granted, I guess, for the variety. So for them, the first day we had a dog that had eaten chocolate. They never had one on the show, and so they recorded that. And then I've had this heart failure dog, this boxer, and then I've had a macaw that had collapsed. And this was literally the first day they did filming. So for them, it was gold dust. But for me, I just thought, actually, I need you to chill out.
Yeah.
Please.
It's a tricky balance for all concerned, isn't it?
It is, of course, because ultimately, as much as someone says to you, and they always say this, we're just flies on the wall. We want you to be natural. Actually, no, it's a TV show, and they still need what they need. And they need you to record every single angle 4 or 5 times. And they need you to rephrase what you just wrote and not cut corners because it's going to be on TV. So all those things kind of came together. Yeah. But that whole experience was incredible. It was really nice entrance into TV world and media world in a bigger way that I never thought was possible when I was tapping away, arguing with people in the BVA about religious slaughter, or you know what I mean? So
you have opened up so many questions here that I just want to dive into. I mean, the religious slaughter is a cracking one.
Yeah.
I'm mindful that we generally limit our shows to about an hour.
Yeah. We might have to have you back for a second time, but
I think we might have to.
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
So many great. We haven't even touched on your mum's cooking yet.
No.
So,
I know.
Go on.
Where do we go next? Really?
Mum's cooking.
Mum's cooking. Go on.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. So
favorite dish.
I'll be very. My background is Jamaican, Cuban, Indian. Right. And the Jamaican, Cuban, Indian all come from my mum's side, right?
Right.
And so...
And I picked up on that, which is why I'm desperate to know about your mum's cooking, because my favourite foods are Jamaican and Indian. I don't do a lot of Cuban cooking, although I do cut a lot of the stuff into cubes, so I guess that's it.
Go.
Yeah.
That doesn't count, Julian.
Doesn't it? Okay.
Say out of the 3, out of Jamaican, Cuban, and Indian, Cuban is probably the most underwhelming of the 3 culinary parts of my life, shall we say. So don't worry about that side too much, because we'll move away from that a little bit. Still great food, but just not quite on the same level as Jamaican and Indian. But
no, nice cigars.
My mom has great cigars, great beaches, great island. But I would say that my mom has found a really nice balance between the 2, and it's interesting that her, some of the classic foods, I don't eat meat, but when I used to eat meat, some of the balances are actually like they were very much the curries and the creaminess and the seasoning of Indian food matched with the the kind of collection of what makes Jamaican food so amazing. So your oxtail and your curry goat and your ackee and saltfish and your callaloo and maybe your twin doubles, and you
have to stop for a minute because my mouth is watering. I have to sort of wipe it.
I was so blessed with the types of food. So it was effectively largely Jamaican food, but with the Indian elements, the seasoning elements, and it's just, and it's always a little bit cliche and nostalgia, but my mom's food is incredible, absolutely incredible. And it's, with being Jamaican, the connection to food is such a big part of our culture as well.
Yep.
But ironically, what I will cook personally for myself more than anything is Indian food. And it's so, and I think an element of that is because of the meat element. So a lot of chickpeas, a lot of lentils, a lot of potato curries, a lot of cauliflower curries, a lot of so much of that transfers to my daily consumption of food.
You got my email address. I want your mum to send me food. just weekly. Is that all right? Just one meal a week's fine. If you can do one a day is great. One a week, yeah.
Yeah, we're in love with your mum.
Yeah,
literally,
absolutely,
literally.
I love food. I mean, you can't tell. I'm sitting now. I can't stand these days because I eat so much food. But most of it. My favourite foods are from the Asian and West Indian sides of the globe.
Yeah. So listen, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Right. If you were going to write it wouldn't be a letter, would it? We're in the 2021s now. So
what's that?
If you're going to WhatsApp your younger self with some advice, what would that advice be? Looking at your journey, and you can't say listen to your mum.
Yeah, that would have been easy.
Because your mum's obviously been a really positive, powerful influence in your life, from what you've told us.
I think it would be see every closed door as an opportunity.
Okay.
And I think what takes a very hard is something that was very difficult was not the idea of failure, but the feeling that certain things that I'd worked so hard for on a regular basis were in jeopardy. And I think there's such a lovely reminder to myself at so many different levels that just at the point when I thought something was taken away from me, I wasn't going to have the opportunity to do it, I found a new will, whether it was with someone else or by myself, to find something out that in retrospect probably was a better opportunity. And I'm very much keen to because of those situations, to approach things with a certain degree of curiosity. It doesn't have to be contingent on the result, but the desire to have a go is so important. And so, closed doors are an opportunity would be probably what I would tell my younger self.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And actually,
really nice. I
know that you are into it's a stupid word, isn't it? You have a keen interest in philosophy.
100%. It started with my brother. He went to Oxford to do philosophy, ironically. But my brother's approach to philosophy is much more academic than mine. It's helped me so much to put into context what's not necessarily important, but how many different angles and views we have available to us about the very same things. And there's never two sides of a coin. There's billions. The things that have always been important to me beyond my initial foray into philosophy was the kind of bigger questions, and especially issues around ethics and who we are as people in society, but also beyond that, the more existential questions about what is the world around us and how we, decide what's important for us as individuals. So from, authors such as Aurelius and Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, the ideas around Stoicism really resonated with me, to be honest with you. And the ideas of taking away the value of material things and reminding yourselves about being that bee within the hive, and that your direction as an individual is a much bigger than what we see as individuals. And so much about today's society is about being a individual first. I have my right to not do this, and I have my right not to, even if it doesn't make any sense.
You're very special. Yes, you're very
exactly.
special.
My opinion always matters, even if it's not grounded in anything.
Yeah, I know. That's why you're on the show. Carry on.
And I always revert to the Monty Python. We are all individuals. I'm not. literally. And I really, that was important for me, because it helped me characterize, the importance. And I think there's just the importance of just being part of something bigger. And then it developed into, other writers. So Kierkegaard was someone who was very important to me, because he was quite a sad character. And I think one of the things that I realized very early on is that one of the best ways to see the value of life is to be able to be ready to explore some of the opposite sides. And you only start to really value, how great life is when you've been through a period of sorrow or a period of frustration. And then when you do arrive at that really positive moment, you go, oh, okay, I value this in a wholly different way than I ever did before. And so again, those particular philosophers were very, very important to the types of readings that I wanted to do. And wasn't it Kierkegaard who said it was something like, you can only understand life backwards, but you have to live it forwards?
Yes, very possibly. It may. I don't know off the top of my head. Was it Nietzsche? Probably not. It's too bright for Nietzsche, to be honest with you.
We could get into photography here, and we really haven't got time here. I mean, let's wrap up on the philosophy. Oh man, we could talk for hours.
Yeah, good. Have you come across a little 60-second CPD?
Yes. I'm familiar with that.
No.
Excuse me.
To our listeners, Fabian suddenly looked the saddest he looked for the whole show.
Yes, I have indeed.
Could we wheedle you into doing something?
Yes, absolutely.
So, Fabian Rivers, Dready Vet, 60-second CPD on preparing for university, starting now.
One of the biggest challenges as an undergrad and being at university is the idea of perfectionism and the idea of having to get things right the first time. And that transition from always getting A's and being a high attaining student and not being able to follow that line into university as a undergrad vet is so difficult. And what I want people to understand and realize on a regular basis is that the greatness of our lives is in the past. It's not the expectation of the future, but it's of the past. And the reason why that is because it's a reminder of our greatest moments, the time we've overcome so many problems. And it galvanizes us for the future. And I think it's so important that we remind ourselves and celebrate our wins on a regular basis to remind ourselves why we got there and who we are as people.
Wow. Yep. That's
powerful stuff.
Amazing. That's very, very powerful. And a bit of mindfulness creeping in there. We've touched on this subject, and more than touched on this subject with other guests. The veterinary profession is a very stressful profession. We sadly have a very, very high degree of or incidence of depression and suicide within the profession, which I don't want to go into again because I think we've gone into that. We don't want to bring the mood down. However, it's there, it's real. And actually allowing ourselves wins allowing ourselves victories over small things isn't bad. And anyone who's listening can do that. So actually, getting that parking space outside the shops, actually getting that I don't know, smoked mackerel pate when it's on special, whatever it is, whatever little wins you have in life. I only say that because I managed that today. But getting those little wins in life and acknowledging that actually some of those wins you got because you put the work in to get them.
Yeah.
Smoked mackerel pate, not a good example of that. I'll ignore that in the final cut. But we live life through a selection of hard work and luck, or just luck and coasting, which some people seem to do. But most of us, hard work and luck. And why should we deny ourselves the pat on the back for a job well done?
Yeah, I just think there's so much value in the things that we've overcome. And so much about our society and as individuals is always contingent on the future. I can do this when I do that. I will be this when I have that. When I get this, this will be okay. And I've turned away entirely from that and decided that it's so important that everything that I do from now on is a bonus, and that when you are open to opportunity, whatever it may look like, then it gives you options. But so much of society tells us that we need to do this to be valued, and that I think so many of the new grads that I do meet and have talked to just feel the pressure of having to pass this, and the idea of repeating a year is the greatest sin. And actually you're at university to learn, and you're at university to develop as a person. And if it takes you 7 years to do that, then what's the problem with that? And so much of that is just so important.
I think you're absolutely right, and I'm going to bring Kierkegaard back into the subject here, because while you were talking, I was googling here because I knew there was something related to that, and I think this is relevant here. One of the many things he said that made some sort of sense. Obviously, a lot of it was crap, but some of the things he said made some sense. Was face the facts of being what you are, for that is what changes what you are.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Don't hide it. Don't think, well, let's gloss over mistakes I've made or problems of my own character or whatever. Actually, face them full on and embrace them. Then, we can use those to redefine ourselves, can't we?
Yeah.
It's this is why I read philosophy, to be honest with you. It's just a fantastic opportunity to review things, and not a lot of it is actually rubbish, to be honest with you. Like you said, it's absolute codswallop. But the point is that you get the opportunity to review that and actually decide whether you think it's codswallop or not. So there's so much greatness out there.
I think we can edit the word codswallop. If we're going to get that abusive,
it's a bit rude.
We're going to lower the tone to that, man. You both there with your anecdotes there remind me of my bicycle racing days, and one of the things that you're faced with a big hill, and you attack that hill and you go up that hill, and you're riding and you're riding and you're riding, and the hill is still going on, and you can see that it's going on and on. And you reach that moment where you sort of want to give up. And the thing to do is to look back down that hill and see what it is that you've faced, what it is that you've achieved. And suddenly the summit is not that far away. And if you've achieved all of that back there that's brought you to this point, just dig in a little bit deeper, persevere, and you will make it to the top.
Yeah.
And it's been used on me to devastating effect. And I've used that with other racers, just to keep them going, keep guiding them. But it's a literal translation of pretty much of what you're saying, as I understand it.
Yeah, and you know, another way of looking at it, and I say this to my assistants, you get the day from hell, don't you? You're dealing with a pio, and then a cesarean comes in, and then Mrs. Jones is on the phone saying that her budgie's got breathing difficulties, and then you're just about to do that, and then, oh, by the way, John's setting up a split pad from the branch surgery. And I say to my assistants, do you know, I've never had a day yet that didn't end.
I'm sure we could arrange that.
There'll be one day, but there hasn't been yet.
Exactly.
The thing about philosophy, and you touched on the subject, is that it's reflective. And actually, we need to do that for our CPD, don't we? We need to reflect on CPD, which I think brings us nicely to the fact that your amazing 60-second CPD is worthy of a certificate. I have one here.
Oh,
you've got the certificate. Brilliant, Julian. Let's have a look at tonight's CPD certificate.
So here we go. Now, and I apologise. Any cultural appropriation is not intended, other than the fact that it is totally intended. So here we go. I've got certificate of mindfulness, and this certifies that we have rocked our way down to Electric Avenue, and then we took it higher. And it says highly sassy. That's us.
That is brilliant. Thank you, guys.
Julian and Mike. It says, and normally it says me and him. It says I and I, and he and he.
Thank you guys for this certificate. I really do appreciate it. It's awesome.
You've deserved it.
Absolutely,
honestly, Fabian. I can't express in mere words what a joy you brought to tonight, and how amazing it's been meeting you.
Absolutely.
I think Mike can say the same thing.
Totally.
I know. Thank you guys. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. It's nice to have an open chat with other vets and talk about these things, but also it'd be fun and fluid and fluent, and it's just been all of those things. So it's been my pleasure, really. Thank you.
Well, you've brought that to today's recording, and we thank you very much indeed for that, Fabian. And a quick note to our listeners: if you like what you've heard, don't forget to subscribe, and you catch us on all of the channels. So click subscribe, get in touch with us, and if there's anything you want us to cover, let us know, and we'll do our best to cover something that's a hot topic for you. So no, absolutely brilliant. So all it leaves for us to do, I think, is to say, Mr. Dready Vet or Dr. Dready Vet, thank you very, very much indeed for sharing some of your story. I want to hear some of the rest of the story. And I want to have you on
again. We do need to have you on again.
We need to have you on again. But in the meantime, may your dog go with you.
May your dog go with you.
May your dog go with you.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.